Please like the video and share it so that it reaches many more people and you get sawaba, or rewards from Allah. This could be a sawabe jariyah or continuous reward for you long after you are gone.
Volume 7, Book 63, number 192. Narrated by Ubayd bin Umar. I heard Aisha saying, the Prophet used to stay for a long while with Zainab bint Jahsh and drink honey at her house. So Hafsa and I decided that if the Prophet came to any one of us, she should say to him, I detect the smell of mahafir in you. Have you eaten mahafir? So the Prophet visited one of them and she said to him similarly. The Prophet said, never mind, I have taken some honey at the house of Zainab bint Jahsh, but I shall never drink of it any more. So there was revealed, O Prophet, why do you ban, for you, that which Allah has made lawful for you? If you too, wives of Prophet, turn in repentance to Allah, addressing Aisha and Hafsa. When the Prophet disclosed a matter in confidence to some of his wives, namely his saying, but I have taken some honey. Volume 7, Book 63, number 193. Narrated by Aisha. Allah's apostle was fond of honey and sweet edible things, and it was his habit that after finishing the Asr prayer he would visit his wives and stay with one of them at that time. Once he went to Hafsa, the daughter of Umar, and stayed with her more than usual. I got jealous and asked the reason for that. I was told that a lady of her folk had given her a skin filled with honey as a present, and that she made a syrup from it and gave it to the Prophet to drink, which caused the delay. I said, by Allah, we will play a trick on him. So I said to Sada bint Zamar, the Prophet will approach you, and when he comes near you, say, have you taken mahafir? He will say, no. Then say to him, then what is this bad smell that I detect from you? He will say to you, Hafsa made me drink honey syrup. Then say, perhaps the bees of that honey had sucked the juice of the tree of al-Urfut. I shall also say the same. O Sophia, you say the same. Later Sada said, by Allah, as soon as he, the Prophet, stood at the door, I was about to say to him what you had ordered me to say because I was afraid of you. So when the Prophet came near Sada, she said to him, O Allah's apostle, have you taken mahafir? He said, no. She said, then what is this bad smell that I detect on you? He said, Hafsa made me drink honey syrup. She said, perhaps its bees had sucked the juice of al-Urfut tree. When he came to me, I also said the same. And when he went to Sophia, she also said the same. And when the Prophet again went to Hafsa, she said, O Allah's apostle, shall I give you more of that drink? He said, I am not in need of it. Sada said, by Allah, we deprived him of it. I said to her, keep quiet. Volume 7, Book 63, number 194. Narrated by Abu Hurairah. The Prophet said, Allah has forgiven my followers the evil thoughts that occur to their minds, as long as such thoughts are not put into action or uttered. And Qatada said, If someone divorces his wife just in his mind, such an unuttered divorce has no effect. Volume 7, Book 63, number 195. Narrated by Jabir. A man from the tribe of Bani Aslam came to the Prophet while he was in the mosque and said, "I have committed illegal sexual intercourse." The Prophet turned his face to the other side. The man turned towards the side towards which the Prophet had turned his face and gave 4 witnesses against himself. On that, the Prophet called him and said, "Are you insane?" He added, "Are you married?" The man said, "Yes." On that, the Prophet ordered him to be stoned to death in the Masala, a praying place. When the stones hit him with their sharp edges and he fled, but he was caught at Al-Hara and then killed. Volume 7, Book 63, number 196. Narrated by Abu Hurairah. A man from Bani Aslam came to Allah's Apostle while he was in the mosque and called the Prophet, saying, "O Allah's Apostle, I have committed illegal sexual intercourse." On that, the Prophet turned his face from him to the other side, whereupon the man moved to the side towards which the Prophet had turned his face and said, "O Allah's Apostle, I have committed illegal sexual intercourse." The Prophet turned his face from him to the other side, whereupon the man moved to the side towards which the Prophet had turned his face and repeated his statement. The Prophet turned his face from him to the other side again. The man moved again and repeated his statement for the 4th time. So when the man had given witness 4 times against himself, the Prophet called him and said, "Are you insane?" He replied, "No." The Prophet then said to his companions, "Go and stone him to death." The man was married. Jabir bin Abdullah al-Ansari said, "I was one of those who stoned him. We stoned him at the Masala, Eid praying place, in Medina. When the stones hit him with their sharp edges, he fled, but we caught him at Al-Hara and stoned him till he died." Volume 7, Book 63, number 197. Narrated by Ibn Abbas. The wife of Thabit bin Kay came to the Prophet and said, "O Allah's Apostle, I do not blame Thabit for defects in his character or his religion, but I, being a Muslim, dislike to behave in un-Islamic manner, if I remain with him." On that, Allah's Apostle said to her, "Will you give back the garden which your husband has given you, as Mar?" She said, "Yes." Then the Prophet said to Thabit, "O Thabit, accept your garden and divorce her once." Volume 7, Book 63, number 198. Narrated by Ikrimah. The sister of Abdullah bin Ubay narrated the above narration, 197, with the addition that the Prophet said to Thabit's wife, "Will you return his garden?" She said, "Yes," and returned it, and then the Prophet ordered Thabit to divorce her. Narrated Ibn Abbas, the wife of Thabit bin Kay came to Allah's Apostle and said, "O Allah's Apostle, I do not blame Thabit for any defects in his character or his religion, but I cannot endure to live with him." On that Allah's Apostle said, "Will you return his garden to him?" She said, "Yes." Volume 7, Book 63, number 199. Narrated by Ibn Abbas. The wife of Thabit bin Kayd bin Shammas came to the Prophet and said, O Allah's Apostle, I do not blame Thabit for any defects in his character or his religion, but I am afraid that I, being a Muslim, may become unthankful for Allah's blessings. On that, Allah's Apostle said to her, Will you return his garden to him? She said, Yes. So she returned his garden to him, and the Prophet told him to divorce her.